We are here. Good evening to all. I'm reading Kenneth. I'm not reading Kenneth Rexroth. This is Kenneth Rexroth. That's the name's name. We're reading Robinson Jeffers. Because why not? And I like his poetry. We have red wine. Rasmus Rosenkranz. And we're just reading the select poems at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. What else are you going to do with their life? To the stonecutters. Stonecutters fighting time with marble, you four defeated challengers of oblivion. Meet cynical earnings, knowing rock splits, records fall down, the square limbed Roman letters, scale in the thaws, where in the ring, the poet as well builds his monument mocking. For man will be blotted out, the fly, die, the brave sun, die blind, and blackened to the heart. Yet stones had stood for 1,000 years, and pain thoughts down, the honey of boots and old poet. Mm, what a great sentiment to start off. I really appreciate this book. It's very small. It's my hand for reference. Ricardo's here. Good to see you, Ricardo. We're reading Robinson Jeffers. What is up? Ricardo has the energy. It's a low energy day for me, but I'm very glad to be here reading poetry. Let's read Consonants M. Equinox, when the earth was veiled in a late rain, wreathed with what puppies wait in spring. Oceans swelled, our storm painted boundary, groundswell shook the beds of granite. I gazing, the boundaries of granite and spray, the established sea marks, behind me, mountain and plain, the immense breadth of the continent, before me the mass and doubled stretch of water. I said, you yoke the illusion of seal rocks with lava and coral sowings that flower the south. Over your flood the life that sought the sunrise faces ours, and has followed the evening star. The long migration to meet across you, and is nothing. See, you have forgotten us. You were much younger when we crawled up. Your elbows soft and quiet spring, and envy's hardness, the insolent quietness of the stone. The tides are in our veins, we still mirror the stars like is your child. Saw you soft and violet, where mountains down, you rock shift places with the consonants. Mother, though my song's measure is like your surf beats ancient rhythm, I never learned it. Before there was any water, there tides. Interesting that this is called consonants and the lyrics and simplicity. From fire we were born, from fire we will disappear, into fire we will disappear. Josh Dacko is here too. We're reading Robinson Jeffers' classic precursor to the book mix. And we're having a good time. I just started. I haven't really read anything since before. It's really good. Robinson Jeffers. Yeah, you know the name. Night, the head slips from the rock, the sunken tide rocks lift straining shoulders. Out of the slack, the slow west, sombrates porch, a ship's light just forever. Over the weight of the prone ocean, the blood cloud, over the dark heaven, over the dark. As the spring of the rays, shining in the shadow, peacefully the matrix of all shining, quieter shining. From the shore of islands unfinished, the open star gleams, and the ocean accepts her glory, O soul of worshipful. Here with the ocean of grave depths, where she dwells always. And the film of blades above that takes the sun also. Her, with her love, the sunworkers have gone in favor. The father floods and noises, the wars weeping and laughter, labor, lust, and delight, and other blemishes. Flows from the deep of heaven, and he will die. And she is far up from here, the sun walks of the mountain forest, move along the stems like towers of the old redwoods in the stream, no twig crackling, shy, wild muzzles into the mountain water among the dark ferns. Oh, passionate wind, so brings here. This August night in a ripped cloud, and Tarian's redwoods, the great one, ancient torch, lord among lost children, earth's orbit doubled when a girdle is are glimmering of the lost fire dying, as if in portals of a snake that then wander, sing, prayer, suddenly be more lost. Us, a measure of heights, the tide like a sea measure. The tide, moving with the nights, that's what's with the welling of voices, turns the deep dark shine, Pacific leans, grand feelings of strength to the outmost margins, night will exhibit stars in our time. How passionately beats when will that time drop forward? Truly, the melting and Terry's Arcturus, higher above the singing song of the thick silence, striding winter giant Orion shines, and the light to the look, furious singing its ship, remaking itself on its knees, numbers, deep inward, on mother, the quietness of the luminous egg, the souls, and people we are willing to love the force for years. Hardly, as a sailor lets the sea when the elements were harder. At the mountains and islands changed. Each century gone by was nothing there. People beyond the stars of hearts and habitationless. But now, dear, it's the truth. Life has grown sweeter and alone, and death is out. First off, my boy Orion is mentioned, the most inspirational constellation in the winter sky. CJP, Christopher just saw them join. Um, good to have you. We are reading Robinson Jeffers. I'm enjoying greatly. And it was fun. Because we get that Northern California imagery. It's so special, so inspiring. We also did this connections with the constellations, which is that has, and I really like that line have men's minds changed. because I've been thinking about Orion, and mythologically, he was a sun for the ancient Greek. But from the modern perspective, from our consciousness as we are, we're not entirely accurate. So it's interesting how we culturally changed, perhaps consciously changed, perceive things differently. Yeah, we are reading the selected poems. That was yeah. Ricardo says there's nothing like from the coast, so I agree. Except perhaps the organ. While this America settles in the mold of its vulgarity, heavily thickening to empire and protests, only a bubble in which the mass pops and sighs out and the mass hardens. I sadly smiling remember flower fades to make fruit, the fruit rocks. I don't mother, hurry with the spring and hotel sills, brightness and impudence, coming to another. Only haste, haste on it. Brain arena, like, is good at the stubborn. For my children, I would have them keep their distance from the thickening center. Corruption never has been compulsory. When the cities lie, the monsters speak, there are left. And boys, think in nothing so moderate as in love and air. Clever serving, insufferable master, there is the trap that catches and over the spirits. God, say, Mama Stinger. We need to slightly longer one. Some breaths. And begin to feel that the earlier streaming time is more accessible. There's a change in culture and society, but when you think about it, the distance between those who venerated Orion and us is relatively small. Um, I think you're right, Ricardo, but I also think that there is a, a progression of the human psyche. I'm kind of borrowing from Ian McGilchrist's theory of human consciousness, um, where our morality is constantly progressing as a culture, um, which we might not think is evident, but I think it is. Um, so I think we're not so distant from the Greeks, but we are also far from the different. And we can see this in the literature and how people are personified and how art depicts different people. But I'm not authority on the subject, so I won't speculate too much. Against the Machine, I've not read, but I will. Heard of it, and you guys are lauding it, so I will be sure to check it out. Maybe I'll pick it up at a bookstore this winter. I'll be in some cities, by the way, where there's actually books. So I'll try and find some more poetry and some more books. Good recommendation. Apology for bad dreams. In the purple light, heavy with the redwood, the slopes drop seaward. Headlong convexities of forest drawing together to the separate moon. Below on the sea cliff, alone the clearing, a little field worn by the streamside, a roof under spare trees and the ocean, like a great stone summit, sharp edge and polished shining. Beyond it, the fountain, and furnace of incredible light floating up from the sun with a clearing woman is punishing a horse she had tied to the altar to a sapling at the edge of the wood. One great whip thumbs the planks. The creature kicked so hard she feared it would snap the altar. She called from the house. The young man and her son, who fetched the chain tightly, they working together, noosed the small rusty links round the horse's tongue, and tied him by the swollen tongue to the tree. Seen from this height, they are shrunk to insect size. Out of all human relation, we cannot distinguish the blood dripping from where the chain is fastened. The beast shuddering, the thrust neck and the legs are apart. You can see the lip fall on the flanks, the gesture of the arm. You cannot see the face of the woman. The enormous light beats up out of the west across the cloud bars of the tradeway. The ocean darkens, the high clouds brighten, the hills darken together. Unbridled and unbelievable beauty covers the even world, not covers, grows hair out of it as Venus down there grows out. And what's so part two? This coast crying out for tragedy like all beautiful places. The quiet ones ask for quieter suffering. Here the granite cliff, gaunt cypresses brown demands what the dikes of red lava and black what the hills like pointed flames beyond Cerbernese, the terrible peaks of the bare hills under the sun. What immolation! This coast crying out for tragedy like all beautiful places, and like the passionate spirit of humanity, paying for its bread, gods and many victims, painful deaths, horrible transfigurements. I said in my heart, better invent than suffer. Imagine victims, lest your own flesh be chosen antagonist, or you, Marley, some creature to the beauty of the place. And I said, burn sacrifices once a year to magic, horror away from the house. This little house here you have built over the ocean with your own hands beside the standing boulders. For what are we? The beast that walks upright with speaking lips and brittle hair. To think we should always be fed, sheltered and kept and self-controlled. We sooner more liable than the other animals. Pain and terror, the insanities of desire, not accidents but essential, and the crowd from the cold. I imagined victims for those wolves and made them phantoms to follow. They have hunted the phantoms and missed the house. It is not good to forget of what engulfs the spirit of the beauty of humanity. The petal of a lost flower, blown seaward by the night wind, floats to its quietness. Or three. Boulders blunted like an old bear's teeth break up from headland below them. All the soil's thick with shells, the tide rock, beasts of a dead people. Here the granite flanks are scarred with ancient fire. The ghosts of the tribe crouch in the nights beside the ghost of a fire. They try to remember the sunlight. Light has died out of their skies. These have paid something for the future. Luck of the country while we living keep old griefs in memory through gods. Envy is not a likely fountain of ruin. To forget evils calls down. Sun reminders from the cloud. Remember debts. We are redeemers. Imagine victims our salvation. White as the half moon at midnight. Someone flame-like passed me by saying, I am Tamar Caldwell, I have my desire. Then the voice of the sea returned when she had gone by the stars to their towers. Beautiful country, burn again. Point Pinos down to the Sur rivers. Burn for with their wonders, land and ocean and the Karma water. Or four. He braves humanity and a mortar to bring the savor. From the bruised root, a man having dreams, who invents victims is the only path to that God. He washes it out with tears and he waters. How soon is it? Fire in the red crucible. It forms it and makes it horrible to itself. The spirit flies out and stands naked. He sees the spirit. He takes it in the naked ecstasy and breaks it in his hand. The atom is broken. The power that masked it cries, the power that moves the stars. I've come home to myself. Behold me. I bruised myself with mortar and burnt me in the red shell. I tortured myself. I flew forth, stood naked of myself and broke me in fragments. And here I am moving the stars that are. I have seen these ways of God. I know of no reason for fire, change, and torture, and the old returning. He being sufficient, I be still. I think they admit no reason. They are the ways of my love, unmeasured power, incredible passion, enormous craft. No thought apparently, but burns darkly, smothered with its own smoke in the human brain vault. No thought outside, certainly measured a phenomena. The fountains of the boiling stars, the flowers on the foreland, the ever returning roses of dawn. How visceral was that first section from torturing the corpse? Goodness. No, no, you have to let the spirit of Robinson Jeffers flow through you, Ricardo. Don't crumple up your poem. This is a masterpiece. Apology for Bad Dreams. Um, and yeah, he said caramel water, but it's capitalized because he wrote in Carmel by the Sea in Northern California. So it works really well in double meanings there. This is dark brown water, but all to the place, which is really clever. Something you can learn from it as a poetic device. Yeah, what names of places look at scriptures as well, and how can you integrate those and use them in your poetry? And speaking of poetry and poets, Cortez is here, who, if I'm not mistaken, wrote a poem live on stream earlier today. Impressive. It's a lot of pressure. Um, and I think there's a picture of it somewhere, so you should go check that out. I do have wine, but chocolate milk sounds amazing, Ricardo. Christian, that poem was Apology for Bad Dream. If this wasn't a library book, I'd be underlining this. But I think I can visit the school library and just checking out all the poetry books. So they have this beautiful Robinson Jeffers collected poems. Yeah, Josh is impressed by the live poetry writing as well. I don't think I'm going to undertake that, at least for the time being. Scary. Maybe if you had a group of people contributing lines and you as the person stream would just doing it. Ooh, and we have a long poem coming up. This poem is over 15 pages long. Am I ready for that? Okay, I'm ready for it. After reading Wasteland long ago, I can wait, right? Actually, after Paradise Lost, I can read it. That's the benchmark because that was a struggle. Okay, continuing the theme of horses, we have Roman Stallion. Dog barked. Then the woman stood in the doorway, and hearing iron strike stone down the steep road, covered her head with a black shawl and entered the light rain. She stood at the turn of the road, a nobly formed woman, erect and strong as a new tower, feature solid and dark, but sculptured into a strong grace. Straight nose with high bridge, firm and wide eyes, low chin, red lips. She was only a fourth part Indian, a Scottish sailor planted her young native her Spanish and Indian, 21 years before. He had named her California when she was born. That was her name. It had gone north. She heard the hooves and wheels come nearer. Blotted sight wrapped the wet bank. The pale face of the driver followed, and burnt out eyes. They had fortune in them. He sat wistfully on the seat of the old buggy, leading a second horse by, along halter, a roan of big that stepped daintily by the swell of the neck of the stallion. What have you got, Johnny? Masterful stallion. Mine now. I won him last night. I had very good luck. He was quite drunk. They bring up their mares here now. I keep this fellow. I got money besides. But I'll not show you. Did you buy something, Johnny? For our Christine, Christmas comes in 2 days, Johnny. By God, forgot, he answered, laughing. Don't tell Christine it's Christmas after a while. You heard something, maybe. A California. I shared your luck with you lost. You lost me once, Johnny remembered. Tom Dale had 2 nights here in the house. Other times we've gone hungry now, and we've won. Christine will have for Christmas. We share your luck, Johnny. You give me money. I go down to Monterey tomorrow. Buy presents for Christine. Come back in the evening. Next day, Christmas. We'll have a wet ride, he answered, giggling. Here, money, $5, $10, $12, and you buy 2 bottles of rye whiskey for him. All right, I go tomorrow. He was an outcast, Hollander, not old, shriveled with bad living. The child Christine inherited from his race blue eyes. Like his life, with a risen forehead, she watched from the house door of her father workshop with the buggy and lead with due respect the stallion, the new corral, the strong one, leaving the wearily breathing buckskin mare to his wife to unharness. Storm in the night, the rain like thin shakes of the roof, ocean on rock, stream battering, won't thunder, walked down the narrow canyon in Carmel Valley and wore away westward. Christine was wakeful with fears and wonders her father lay too deep for a storm. Dawn comes late in the years, though. Later, it's the crack of the canyon of the wet woods. In California, slipped from the bed an hour before. The buckskin looking tired. There was a little barley. And why should Johnny feed all the barley to his stallion? This is what he would do. She tiptoed out of the ring, leaving her clothes. If he wakened, if the sound, she waited to put them on. He wakened, she waited to put them on, and passed from the door of the house into the dark of the rain. The big black drops were cold through the thin shift, but the wet earth pleasant under her naked feet. There was a pleasant smell in the stable, and moving softly, touching things with the supple bend of the unclothed body was pleasant. She found a box, filled it with sweet, dry barley, and took it down to the old corral. The little mare sighed deeply at the rail of the wet darkness, and California, returning between 2 redwoods up to the house, heard the happy jaws grinding the grain. Johnny could mind the pigs and chickens. Christine called to her as she entered the house, but slept again under her hand. She laid the wet nightdress on a chair back and stole into the bedroom to get her clothes. Plank creaked, and he wakened. She stood motionless, hearing him stir in the bed. When he was quiet, she stooped after her shoes and said softly, "What are you doing? Come back to bed. It's late. I'm going to Monterey. I must hitch up." "You come to bed first. I've been away 3 days. I give you money. I take back the money." "And what do you do in town then?" she said sharply, and came to bed. He, reaching his hands from it, felt the cool curve and firmness of her flank, and half rising caught her by the long wet hair. She endured, and to hasten the act she feigned desire. She had not for long, except in a dream, felt it. Yesterday's drunkenness made him sluggish and exacting. She saw, turning her head sadly. The windows were bright gray with dawn. He embraced her still, stopping to talk about the stallion. At length she was permitted to put on her clothes, clear daylight over the steep hills, gray shining cloud over the tops of the redwoods, the winter stream sang loud, the wheels of the buggy slipped in deep slime, ground on washed stones at the road edge, down the hill the wrinkled river smothered the floor. You must keep to the bed of stones. She knew the way by willow and alder. The buckskin pulted midstream, shuddering the water of her own color washing up to the traces. But California, drawing up her feet out of the whirl onto the seat of the buggy, swung the whip over the yellow water and drove to the road. All morning the clouds were racing northward like a river. At noon they thickened. When California faced the south wind cone from Monterey, it was heavy with level rainfall. She looked seaward from the foot of the valley, red rays, bright sunset from a trumpet of streaming cloud over Lagos, the southwest occident of the solstice. Twilight came soon, but she tired the mare, fearing the road more than the width, mile after mile of slow gray twilight. And suddenly darkness. Christine will be asleep. It is Christmas Eve before the hour of daylight wasted this morning. She could see nothing. She let the reins lie on the dash. Bored and knew at length by the cramp of the wheels and the pitch down they had reached it. Noise of wheels on stones, flashing of hooves and water, a whirl of sounds, no sight, the gentle thunder of water, the mare snorting, dipping her head, one knew to look for footing in the blackness under the stream, the hushing frequent of the sea wind, and the passion of musical willows. The mare stood still. The woman shouted to her, spared the whip. For a false leap would lose the track of the floor she had stood. The baby's things, thought California, under the seat. The water will come over the floor. And rising in the midst of the water, she tilted the seat, fetched up the doll, the painted wooden chickens, the wool bear, the book of many pictures, the box of sweets. She brought them all from under the seat and stored them trembling under her clothes, about the breasts, under the arms, at the corners of the cardboard boxes, cut-ins with soft flesh, but with a piece of rope for a girdle, and wound about the shoulders, all was made fast. The mare stood still as if asleep in the midst of the water. Then California reached out a hand over the stream and fingered her rump. The solid convexity of it shook like a beat of a great heart. What are you waiting for? But the feel of the animal surface had wakened a dream, obscured real danger with a dream of danger. What for? For the water stallion to break out of the stream? That was what the rum strains for, and to come up flinging foam sideways. Four hooves in air, crush me in the rig, furl over his wound. She flung out with the whip then. The mare plunged forward. The buggy drifted sidelong. Was she off ground, swimming? No, by the splashes. The driver, a mere prehensile instinct, clung to the side irons of the seat and felt the force, but not the coldness of the water curling over her knees, breaking up to the waist, over her body. They turned. The mare had turned upstream and was wallowing back into shoal water. And California dropped her forehead to her knees, having seen nothing, feeling the danger, and felt the brute weight of a branch of alder. The pendulous light leaves brushed her bent neck like a child's fingers. The mare burst out of the water and stopped on the slope of the ford. The woman climbed down between the wheels and went to her head. Poor Dora, she called her name. There, Dora, quietly, and led her around. There was room to turn on the margin and head to the gentle thunder of the water. She crawled on hands and knees, felt for the ruts, and shifted the wheels into them. You can see, Dora. I can't, but this time you'll go through it. She climbed into the seat and shouted angrily. The mare stopped her 2 feet in the water. She touched with the whip. The mare plodded ahead and halted, and California thought of a prayer. Dear little Jesus, dear baby Jesus, born to the night, Your head was shining like silver candles. I've got a baby too, only a girl. You're the light wherever you walk. Dear baby Jesus, give me light. Light stream. Rose, gold, rich purple, hiding the board like a curtain. The gentle thunder of water was a noise of wing feathers. The fans of paradise lifting softly. The child afloat on radiance had a baby face, but angels had birds' heads, hawks' heads. Bending over the baby, weaving a web of wings about him, he held the small fat hand, a little snake with golden eyes, and California could see clearly under radiance the mare's pricked ears, the sharp black fork against the shining light ball, but it dropped. The light of heaven frightened poor Dora. She backed, swung up the water, and nearly oversetting the buggy, turned and scrambled backward. The iron wheel tires rang on boulders. In California, weeping climbed behind the wheels, her wet clothes and toys packed under, dragging her down with their weight. She stripped off the cloak and dress and laid the baby's things in the buggy, dropped Johnny's whiskey out from under the seat, wrapped all in the dress, balls and toys, and tied them into a bundle that would sling over her back. She harnessed the mare, hurting her fingers against the swollen straps and the wet buckles. She tied the pack over her shoulders, the cords crossing her breasts, and mounted. She drew up her shift about her waist and knotted it, naked thighs clutching the sides of the mare, bare flesh to the wet withers, and caught the mane with her right hand. The looped up bridle reins in the other. Dora, the baby, gives you light, the blinding radiance. Hovered on the board, sweet baby Jesus, give us light. Cataracts of light in Latin scene fell through the willows. The mare snorted and reared and roared in thunder of the invisible water. The neck shaking open like a flag with shock with flashes. The baby face hovering the water, beating her over her shoes and stockings up to the bare thighs and over them like a beast, lapping her belly, the wriggle and pitch of the mare, swimming the drift, the sucking water, the blinding light above and behind, not with the gleam before, in the throat darkness, the shock of the forehooves, striking bottom, the struggling and surging lift of the haunches. She felt the water straining off her from the shoulders down, heard the great strain and sob of the mare's breathing, heard the horseshoes grind on gravel. When California came home, the dog at the door snuffed at her without barking. Christine and Johnny both asleep. She did not sleep for hours. A kindled fire and up patiently over it. Shaping and drying, the deer bought me gifts for Christmas morning. There's a break right there. This is hardly a poem. This is a short story. It's an interesting use of the preface. All right, I'm going to read in their section. She hated, she thought, the proud necked stallion. He leaned the big twin masses of his breast on the rail. His red brown eyes flashed the white crescents. She admired him then. She hated him for his uselessness, serving nothing but Johnny's vanity. Horses were too cheap to breed, she thought. If he could range in freedom, shaking the red roan mane for a flag on the bare hills. A man brought up a mare in April. Then California, though she wanted to watch, stayed with Christine indoors when the child fretted. The mother told her once more about the miracle of the poor, her prayer to the little Jesus. The Christmas Eve, when she was bringing the gifts, phoned the appearance, the lights, the Latin scene, the thunder of wing feathers and water, the shining child, the cataracts of splendor down the darkness. A little baby, Christine asked. And God is a baby, a child of God. That was his birthday. His mother was named Mary. He prayed to her too. God came to her. He was not a child of a man like you or me. God was her father. She was the stallion's wife. What did I say? God's wife. She said with a cry, lifting Christine aside. pacing the planks of the floor. She is called more blessed than any woman. She was so good. She was more loved. A God lived near her house. He lives up high over the stars. He ranges on the bare blue hill of the sky. In her mind, a picture flashed of the red run mane shaking out for a flag on the bare hills. And she said quickly, he's more like a great man holding his son in his hand, her mind giving her words the lie. But no one knows, only as it's shining in the power, the terror, the burning fire covered her over. Was she burnt up, mother? She was so good and lovely. She was the mother of the little Jesus. If you are good for nothing, if you are good, nothing will hurt you. What did she think she loved? She was not afraid of the foes, hands that had made the hills and sun and moon, and the strength and the great redwoods, the terrible strength. She gave herself without thinking. You only saw the baby, mother. Yes, and the angels about him. The great clouds shining over the black river. 3 times she had walked to the door, 3 times returned. And now the hand that had thrice hung on the knob, full of prevented action, twisted the cloth of the child's dress she had been mending. Oh, I've torn it. She struck at the child, then embraced her, fiercely the blonde, sickly body. Johnny came in, his face reddened as if he stood near fire, his eyes triumphing. Finished, he said, and looked with malice at Christine. I go down valley with Jimmy Carrier, owes me $5. 15 I charged him, he brought 10 in his pocket. Has grapes on the ranch. Maybe I take a barrel of red wine instead of money. Be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll tell you. Hey, Jim, he laughed over his shoulder. I say tomorrow evening. I show her how the red fellow acts the big fellow when I come home. She answered nothing, but stood in front of the door, holding the little hand of her daughter in the path of the sun between the redwoods, while Johnny tied the buckskin mare behind Carrier's buggy, and bringing the saddle and bridle tossed them under the seat. Jim, Jim Carrier's mare. The bay stood with drooped head and started slowly. The men, laughing and shouting at her, their voices could be heard down the steep road after the noise of iron-hooped wheels died from the stone. Then one might hear the hush of the wind in the tall redwoods. The tinkle of the April brook deep in its hollow. Humanity is the start of the race, I say. Humanity is the mold to break away from, the crust to break through, the coal to break into fire, the atom to be split. Tragedy that breaks man's face, and a white fire flies out of it. Vision that fools him out of his limits, desire that fools him out of his limits. Unnatural crime, inhuman science, split eyes and the mask, wild loves that leap over the walls of nature, the wild fence vulture science. Unless intelligence of far stars, dim knowledge, the spinning demons that make an atom. These break, these pierce, these defy, praising their God, shrill with fierce voices. Not in a man's shape, he approves the praise. He that walks lightning naked on the Pacific, that laces the suns with planets, the heart of the atom with electrons. What is humanity in this cosmos? For him, the last least hint of a trace in the dregs of its solution, for itself, the mold to break away from the coal to break into fire. Okay, I'm beginning to understand what he's doing with this poem and where it's going and the depth to it, but it's been about 45 minutes, and I think I'm done reading. To the tragedy of all involved, should anyone be enduring it still. Um, the story is interesting, and the framework is interesting, but I wasn't really intrigued until we get to this kind of abstraction of humanity. Humanity is the mold to break away from, the crust to break through, the coal to break in fire, the atoms to be split. That's wonderful. And I love that. I think I'm gonna leave off here for the night. Um, and we can finish the story the next time we read Robinson Jeffers. I feel like I have a better understanding of who he was and what he wrote. Uh, and I think I will need to study his poetry for a long time. Bookmark right here, complimentary of the Segura magazine. Thank you, Ricardo. I try my best. Reading is a skill I'm working on. Um, but I really like reading in front of people at events. The only problem is if I want an event to happen where I live, I have to organize it myself, which gets wearisome. Although I accomplish it 3 times a time. Um, so I use this as an outlet, and I have a great time. I hope everyone enjoys this kind of poetry. I'm learning more. Hopefully, we're becoming better poets together. Take the world by storm.